The San Jose Barracuda lose a heartbreaker in overtime to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. It's Ian Reed. It's Kevin Lacey. It's Barracuda After Dark after, I don't know, what, a million-year hiatus it feels like. Let's get this rolling. But as always, if you want to be part of the show, be sure to hit us up on all the social media platforms. And you know the drill by now. Let's not get too. This is Barracuda After Dark, man. We don't want to be all proper here. Let's get this show rolling. It's me. It's Kevin Lacey. Kevin, how you doing? No audio on Kevin. What is going on here? Give me a second. I'm gonna fix this. Apparently you have no. We're live. You just have no audio. Okay. I should have you audio now.
Don't tell me that the ones who were managing the scoreboard at the Coachella Valley's arena are now giving us technical problems with the video because
I think NDI is just broken. I'm gonna have to mess with it at some point, because that's the second time this has happened. I didn't think it would happen with your stream because I have bars. I had no audio. But yeah, so Kevin was saying before he was so rudely not heard.
Oh, they couldn't
hear you.
Hear me.
I know. Brutal.
Dark.
Yeah, so obviously I had to reel Kevin in because we haven't done one of these in I don't know how long. It feels like forever. I feel bad. It's sad though, because like I'm happy we're doing it because it's always fun to do these, but like it just, when I was putting it together, I'm like, man, I miss Zach.
Zach Amon, our guy Zach.
Our guy Zach Amon, yes, him too. No, obviously Zach Divine, because I remember we used to do these all the time with him and Jerk as well. I know Jerk's probably lurking in the chat. Yeah, I mean it was an interesting game against the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Overall thoughts.
Overall thoughts is this had to be the best performance that the Barracuda have put up against Coachella Valley. I tweeted it out earlier that Coachella Valley came into the night with the third best record in the league. The Barracuda came into the night with the third lowest record in the league. So to come out and put this performance up, unfortunately an overtime loss, as we'll get to, but real strong showing here. I mean, gave up over 40 shots, and yet I feel pretty happy with how the team played anyway tonight. How about you, Ian?
Yeah, I was really into this. Like, I got a little upset, obviously, when I think the Firebirds went up 2-1, but then Thomas Bordeleau came back, scores immediately, and I'm like right back in this. And then Jeff EL scores, and I'm super into it. And look, it's been an emotional weekend. First, you have the Marlowe retirement, which definitely, made you feel things. And then, obviously, as you alluded to before we could hear you, Timo Meier got traded. So, we had to do...
Timo Meier got traded? What?
What? Timo Meier gets traded, and obviously that was, I think we all felt it was coming, but it's still a gut punch. I think, I'm still pretty bummed out about the return. So yeah, man, I needed so bad for something to just cheer about. And tonight the Barracuda absolutely gave me that.
Yeah, the team performed very, very well. I mean, the Barracuda, unfortunately, I have to say, have not beaten the expansion Coachella Valley Firebirds this entire season. They are now, for all intents and purposes, 0-6. I believe it's 0-4-2.
Yeah.
And, still no wins. But And a couple of those games were lopsided. I believe we've been shut out twice by Coachella Valley, and then the very first game was an 8-3 loss that thankfully I was too sick to attend. So the lot of games getting into, I think shootout the last one, and then this one a highly entertaining game. I think what has changed, and I will ask you kind of propose this as a question. My feeling is the Barracuda have gotten tired of getting pushed around by Coachella Valley. The Firebirds play very physical. They're in your face after every whistle, trying to start something. Look at what happened when the Barracuda regained the lead at 3-2. Coachella Valley went back to kind of mucking it up, trying to start scraps, hit Nick Chichek in the head, hit Derek Pouliot from behind, like starting to just get them off their game, because we've talked about so much this season how the Barracuda are one of the least disciplined, probably the least disciplined team in the league, whether it's stats or not. They really know how to unraveled, but they really held their composure tonight. They got tough. Instead of getting whiny and doing a retaliatory thing, they got tough in this game. And so I really appreciated everyone just digging in. When you got a guy like Nikita Ohotiuk coming in via this Timo Meier trade, you're going to get tough right there. So, don't let him be the only tough guy on this team. And as I've also mentioned, I know it's getting long-winded, but as I've also mentioned, the smallest players on this team, like William Eklund, Andrew Agazzino, Daniil Gushchin, be the only guys bringing the force. So I thought everyone really, really stepped it up tonight. Great performance. Unfortunately, it was a loss, though. But what do you think changed in this particular game, Ian, that was for the better?
And the thing is, I don't think it started this game. I think the Barracuda have started playing, like, they've really, in my opinion, have started playing their best hockey over the last 2 or 3, maybe even 4 games. Even that loss, like the last game they played, we were talking about this off stream, but like even the game against what I think it was Ontario, like the final score obviously was awful, but I don't think that game was a 6-1 loss. Like the game itself, like if you look at that score, I think you look at that and go, oh, well, they just got waxed and they went back to being bad. But I don't think that game was as bad as the score would indicate it was. Like, don't get me wrong, they didn't finish strong, and I think they unraveled a little bit at the end of the game. But for the most part in that game, I thought they held their own, and I thought they were in it. But the final score was obviously not great.
Well, you're kind of bang on about the trend, though. I mean, I don't know. I didn't think the last game was all that great, but you look at the 4 games before that. Number 1 team, Calgary, they take it to a shootout. They come from behind down 3-1 and take it to a shootout. Then they beat Ontario in overtime. They beat Abbotsford very convincingly twice in Abbotsford. Yeah. And then the Ontario game. So, they are definitely coming around. I said it at the start of the season. The Sharks and the Barracuda can stink as much as they want at the start of the season, but you hope they figure it out by the middle so that they're finishing strong. And that's how a team that's to build needs to move forward. And so it's nice to see them catch this hot, get hot anyway right now. And you hope with a whole bunch of home games coming up here in March, you hope that continues, to kind of get the fan base excited, maybe about playoffs. So.
I mean, 7 teams make it in the Pacific, so I mean, there's that. Like, I know it's funny, right? Because it's like, yeah, let's go playoffs, and it's like they're gonna get waxed by Coachella in like 2 games. But I mean, you need something to cheer for at this point with this team, with everything that's gone on. And I have not been a big fan of Mike Greer's tenure so far as the GM of the San Jose Sharks, but the moves they've made for the CUDA so far have super paid off. Martin Kaut coming in has been definitely a huge upgrade over what they were getting from Merkley. Chris Colo's been amazing.
think 7 points in 9 games for Martin Kaut.
Yeah. Chris Colo has been just a revelation for a guy that was just kind of brought in with Weatherby going the other way. Like, it, again, like if you're not like us who kind of get in the weeds on the Barracuda, like these aren't trades that you would even think about long after they were done. But for the Barracuda, like these moves have been huge.
Yeah, remember were pretty puzzled when the Sharks traded 25-year-old Jasper Weatherby for 30-year-old Kyle Criscuolo, who I wasn't aware was even on an NHL contract at the time. I thought he was on an AHL. And I love Kyle Criscuolo. I've loved that guy since he was on Grand Rapids from the start. And shout out to his dad, Coach Bob, by the way, friend of the show. But yeah, Kyle Criscuolo has been fantastic. He started off the scoring tonight with his seventh goal with the Barracuda. I believe it was his 11th goal of the season, 12th goal of the season.
12th goal, yeah.
And Agazino leading the charge with 25 assists there as well. So nice to see the veterans paving the way, because what you're talking about, Mike Greer shoring up the Barracuda roster throughout this season. You got to have the veterans leading the way, paving the way for the young players like Bordeleau, Eklund, Gushchin, Robbins, etc. Develop a winning culture by the time they get promoted up to the Sharks.
Yeah, 100%. A Big Bird asking in chat, and I think it's a good time to answer this question. He says, I don't have my YouTube thing working, so I can't put it on the screen. I apologize. Do you think the CUDA are developing players fast enough to enter the big show? And once they are Sharks, are they bringing out the player potential fast enough? I think that I'll answer this first and I'll see what you think about this. I think that the Sharks the Barracuda have done a good job of putting guys in positions to succeed for the most part. Like obviously guys like William Eklund, who I think has been a revelation in the second half of the season. Thomas Bordeleau has been kind of good a lot, but these guys have been constantly put in positions that you want to see players of their caliber put in to continue developing their game.
Look at Daniil Gushchin, Ian. Like Daniil Gushchin, a player who I think you've been pretty bullish on. Mark Eisenberg definitely been bullish on him. I tempered my expectations, and at the start of the season, I felt like I was pretty justified. I felt like Daniil Gushchin was reminding me a lot of a much younger Jaden Halbgewachs, always staying to the perimeter, held onto the puck way too long, got shoved off the puck, just not, being feisty, but not really doing a whole lot. Then he started scoring some goals. Then some of the rest game, forechecking, defensive play, really knowing where to open himself up in the offensive zone. You started to see he is a force, like very consistently. I don't want to say every time, but he's a consistent force out there in the offensive zone. And he almost won the game with about maybe 90 seconds left. He danced right through one of the Firebird defensemen and went on a breakaway and nearly beat Chris Streeger, who's playing his first game tonight after that ACL injury. So Daniil Gushchin, is absolutely that one of the players like what the chat's talking about, where I don't know if I'm ready, and Mike Greer certainly doesn't seem ready to call up players. But I think Gushchin's a guy who is doing everything he can to show, look how far I've developed from start to finish. Put me in the lineup next season. It might be still too early for my taste, but he's making a strong case.
Yeah. I was really bullish on Gushchin at the start of the season. I think he was a guy that I don't think people were talking about enough before the season started. I think now, obviously, he's done very well for himself. He's really come on. Especially in the second half of the year. I agree. Early on in the season, my concern with him was he tried to do too much. Just on his own, right? It would you could put him and Eklund on the ice and you would think, okay, these guys should be amazing together. And neither one would wanted to give the other the puck.
Yeah,
early
100%. I mean, Hobgawaks would never pass the puck. He'd
Right.
skate around and skate around and skate around. And sometimes he'd skate around because none of his teammates would be there. It's like, where are you guys? And that's what Gushchin was doing at the start of the season. But he's found some wonderful chemistry with Zeno and William Eklund. And obviously, they're going to be like, besides Bordeleau, the two stars of this team. So, you can say, well, he's the third complementary piece to that. But I mean, he's holding his own for sure. Yeah. 100%. Like, I'm very happy with the top line and Thomas Bordeleau as well, as I just mentioned. Scored his 20th goal tonight, Ian.
Yep. I mean, Thomas Bordeleau, I've been big on Bordeleau, I think, most of the season. I always felt like every time, like now, I think now if you ask me who to call up, like I would have a hard time. As you said, you can only call up one between Bordeleau and Eklund. I would have a hard time deciding who the Sharks should call up. But for a long stretch of the season, it was Bordeleau, and it wasn't even I didn't even have to think about it very long. I think now I'd have to have serious thoughts if you said, okay, Mike Greer called Ian up, and because he would never do that. But let's just, for imagine, Mike Greer calls Ian up and says, Ian, I have to call someone up. Who do I call up? Now, obviously, Mike Greer would never call me for anything, and that's fine. But yeah, there was a long time where it was Bordeleau, and it wasn't even close. Now between him and Eklund, man, that's a toughie. I'd probably lean Eklund at this point.
Yeah, and we mentioned when we had Nick on one of the previous times, it wasn't that William Eklund had a bad start to the season, just was fine.
Yeah.
He was doing all right. He was kind of reinitializing his game, I guess. Let's not forget, William Eklund was a player who scored 0 goals until, I think, early March last year when he finally got one with Djurgården. So Eklund was kind of recalibrating, I think, at the start of the season. Obviously, he had the great rookie face-off tournament, but that's going rookies, and then now it's like, okay, back to playing pros again. And for guys like Gushchin and Robbins, this was, for all intents and purposes, their first real experience against that. So I think that we're starting to really see Eklund, Bordeleau, Gushchin jump up.
Mm-hmm.
Robbins is trending down for me, and Reedy was hurt and has struggled this season.
I think
Brandon Coe, who I don't think is hurt, but he has had a tough time too.
I can't remember if Nick said he was a healthy scratch tonight or not. I can't remember. Tristan Robbins, I think, is a guy to me, like, we've talked about this on previous shows a lot about the rookie wall. And Tristan Robbins is a guy where I just wonder if that's what's going on there. Brandon Coe, to an extent, to that too. A guy who hasn't, or has like found his way, who's really impressed me of late and hasn't really hit that wall. Ozzy Weisblatt has been really good since he started drawing into the lineup more regularly. Like, I liked his game a lot tonight. I mean, I think, like his game, I know a lot of people look at Ozzy Weisblatt and they go first round pick, but to me, like, this guy is just going to, I think he has, like, he's going to have some scoring touch in the NHL, but that's not going to be his game. But man, does he get under people's skin so easily.
Yeah, look at Matt Tennyson. I feel like Matt Tennyson has led the charge for, I'm going to start a fight every play stoppage I can. Mm-hmm. And it seems like he always goes after Weisblatt. And I think Weisblatt's actually done a pretty good job when he has drawn into the lineup, because other teams have done this as well. I think he's done a pretty good job of keeping his composure. And kind of keeping it in between the whistles. So, yeah, he's definitely a sandpaper guy. It's been frustrating for me, and I've seen the questions, just the abundant questions on social media about why isn't Ozzy Weisblatt playing? And I can't answer it for you. I don't think any of us have that answer except John McCarthy. But Weisblatt has performed admirably. A game like tonight was his style of game, and I've been pretty happy with that. Kind of getting back to Big Bird's question there
Mhm.
about are they bringing out players fast enough? We're talking about these players we like, but are they
Yeah.
bringing out players fast enough? I don't know why we need to rush anyone. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's points in the season where I thought like when certain people went down, like it just to me it made more sense like to try and fill someone who actually plays that role instead of being like, hey, Mr. not scoring bottom six guy, you get to play with Logan Couture tonight. You know what I mean? So I think there's been situations there where it's kind of annoyed me a little bit. But the Sharks, they came into the season with a plan and they've followed through with it. For better or worse, they've followed through with their plan. And I think the important thing was making sure that guys like Eklund and Waterloo were playing on the Barracuda, getting all the minutes. Now, do you have to agree with that? No, of course you don't have to agree with that method, but they were pretty honest coming into the season how this season was going to go. And even if they weren't, you could look into the way they handled the off season. And obviously the writing was on the wall here for how, guys were just not going to get to come up. So, obviously you can get frustrated because obviously they've had to call guys up and it's been basically CJ Cease, who I like. And I don't want to feel like I'm beating up on CJ Cease here, but it's like CJ Cease, this isn't the future of this team. And Nick Cechek, who I like Nick Cechek. I'm sure he's a swell dude, but
I actually thought Nick Cechek played his best game tonight in months.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So like I understand the frustration from that point because obviously I think if you can't take anything the Sharks do at face value this year. And I think most people knew the score, right? Like they knew that obviously people that are in the know who the prospects are that are interesting, right? Like we're not fooling anyone by thinking, oh, Nick Cechek's actually really good, better than William Eklund even. Like no one thinks that. But I can understand, I can definitely understand the frustration from fans who would rather see guys who, and again, I don't want to beat up on CJ Cease here. I like CJ Cease, but he's not William Eklund, right? Like those are just the facts as they are.
Yeah. CJ Cease has, I think CJ Cease brings a lot of intangibles that just don't go on the score sheet, but you especially, but we all like saying he's a guy from the Guy Factory.
Correct.
And CJ Cease definitely is that. He's got his leadership quality. He's brings a ton of hustle, a ton of speed. He can win faceoffs, although he's spent almost all season at left wing. Mm-hmm. When Weatherby was the center and then when Chris Cuolo became the center. If anyone's going to be the punching bag for me, it's going to be Max Verino, who was rumored last night to have been traded, but that did not end up happening. He didn't play tonight, though. But Max Verino just has not adjusted at season in the SHL last year, but it just hasn't worked out. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
And that's
plain and simple.
That's the thing, right? I think it was a good swing for the Barracuda because those guys always get contracts, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
But Jerry in the chat, I just want to hit the super chat here. Again, I apologize. I didn't set up the YouTube thing, so I can't bring it up on the screen. But Jerry, $5 super chat. Thanks, guys, for doing this Scoot After Dark. I almost watch all of the games, so this is really enjoyable. I wish we could do it more. It's just a schedule and, trying to find times to do this and then also have a family, that doesn't want to throw me out in the snow.
We've been wanting to do this show for a while, and so it just happened that we both really enjoyed the game tonight. We both were available and said, let's do it live. So that's what we're happy that you guys can join us and send in questions and thoughts and everything. I still want to get to. We're not ignoring you. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
I do want to touch up on the third goal scorer tonight.
Sure.
Because after the Barracuda did go down 2-1, Obviously, we already mentioned Bordelot. What a laser! Right past the ear of
Yeah.
Chris Dreger. In double coverage, too. So you want to talk about, Thomas Bordelot, getting prepared for an eventual NHL call-up, whether that's at the end of this season or next season. Like, those are plays that he's he's going to get covered. He's going to get double covered in the NHL. So you got to prove it at the AHL. What a goal. But then Jeff
Beautiful.
Viel with the nice hands. Attaboy Jeff with the breakaway goal, beat Dreger 5-hole. I want to ask you
Mhm.
and everyone, does Jeff Viel have a role with this team next year and or with the organization next year? Obviously, he brings fighting element there. And he gets on these hot streaks. Like right now, he's got 6 points in the last 4 games. He's been, putting it all together here. But he's got those stupid slashes, after the whistle and stuff. And he hasn't been called up to the Sharks this season that I can recall. So does Jeff Viel have a role down the line?
So Jeff Viel to me is the most frustrating player on this team because he shows that he can score in this league. He has offensive talent in this league. But he has been there's just been so many situations where it's like, Jeff Viel scores, yay! And Jeff Viel immediately goes to the box. Right? And so to me, he's a frustrating guy. But this is a guy who has always, he was the captain of his Memorial Cup winning junior team.
That's right.
He wears a letter on the Barracuda. He's one of those glue guys that I think they probably would like to keep around. Do I think Jeff Viel, he's always going to be a fringe guy to me though. He's going to be a guy who might sneak into the NHL on a not great team, which last year I think the Sharks were. But I think he is a guy who could definitely carve himself out a nice career in the AHL. And I think that if I do I think he has a future with the Sharks specifically? No. But could he be a guy who maybe sticks around on the Barracuda? Or just sticks around in the AHL I think he's a guy who you sign to a league minimum 2-way deal.
Sure.
And he kind of just carves out his niche there. But to me, he's such a frustrating player. Because there's been times where tonight, where obviously I'm super happy, but there has been times where I wanted to push Jeff Viel through a wall. And not that would work. Jeff Viel would destroy Ian because Ian's not a very big dude. So I'd try to push him through a wall, and he would be like, no, and then I would die.
And I was going to say that I would rather have Jeff Viel than Pat McGrath, and that's no offense to Pat McGrath because Pat McGrath would kill me with his pinky.
Yes.
But I do think that Jeff Viel has, obviously Pat McGrath was traded in the Weatherby deal and didn't have a role with this team. Viel does, so I like where you went with that. I was curious because he's a guy that I just think if the Sharks are looking at trying to open up roster spots, obviously with trade, Tibor Ibrahimov and our guy, Zach Amond, were sent packing. And that opened up a couple of roster spots potentially for college free agents or draft picks. Someone on Twitter, and I can't remember, but I apologize, said, hey, you got some of the junior players coming out. Ethan Cardwell, for example.
Yep.
We got to open up some spots there as well. So it's a good call there. I don't think the Sharks or the Barracuda are done with their roster management. But I like where the Barracuda are right now, trying to claw their way back into a playoff spot because more than anything, I always say, our NHL team does not make the. What's up?
No, I was going to say, Puckeye asked, do we potentially see Ozzy come up if some of the Sharks depth guys get moved by Friday? Just seems like a sandpaper guy. I don't know. No. And that's nothing against Ozzy. I just don't think that there's no reason to bring him up right now. I think he's doing fine on the Barracuda. He's but even on the Barracuda, like he's starting to draw into the lineup more regularly now. But for a long time this season, man, Ozzy Weisblatt went few games and far between with getting any ice time. I just don't think it makes sense based on his development curve right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Just finishing my thought, more than anything. Yeah. If the Sharks are not going to the playoffs, and contrary to what some might believe, going to the playoffs this year, your AHL team must always make the playoffs if your NHL team does not. That's my personal opinion, because you have to be building upwards in some organizational capacity. So I think more than anything, we're going to see more players get brought in. Some of these trades might be a little quizzical, but it's all about giving these players a winning attitude, the young players especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look at
I have one more young player. Yeah,
go ahead. No,
go ahead.
I have nothing. Go.
I have one more young player I want to ask you about, because I feel like we always overlook this player whenever we do shows with Nick or like tonight so far. Artemi Kanyatsev, like the forgotten defensive prospect. Artemi Kanyatsev, I think the last time I was on, which was months ago, I said, if Artemi Kanyatsev can make the same strides from last season to this season, from this season to next season as he did from last season to this season, he'll be back on his prospect trajectory that I think we all hoped. But a turnover like tonight to allow the Firebirds to tie up the game. I mean, just going into the corner nonchalant, waiting for Ty Cartier to come in, strip him of the puck. And then, I mean, Aaron Dell was phenomenal tonight, Ian.
Yes.
And absolutely did not deserve the goal against that he had, because Artemi Kanyatsev very much made a Ryan Merkley play. Like, go check out the Teal Town USA Twitter for the GIF, because people always ask me why I dog Ryan Merkley so much. The play that Artemi Kanyatsev made tonight, Ryan Merkley would make 15 times every single game and turn the puck over every time. That's a play that cannot make. And he'll learn, but cannot make it. What are your thoughts about Kanyatsev?
He's fine. I don't think very much of him. I don't think there's a ton of upsides there. I don't think he's an NHL defenseman at any point.
Okay.
I think he's fine. I think that it just shows, like, the fact that he's in the role he is in just shows how barren the Sharks are in defensive prospects, which obviously this is something that Mike Grier is trying to address. Now, is he addressing it well or not? You can make those arguments, right? But I don't think much of him. I think that if this team had decent defensive prospects that were currently able to play in the AHL, I don't think we're talking about him at all.
That's fair. Because I think I did, before training camp, I think I actually had him listed as the 7th D-man on the chart. Now, between injuries, trades, etc., and I think, general improvement that he's made over last season, he's definitely moved his way back up into the top 4. But I get what you're saying. Like, is he a top 4 most other places? Again, this is a team that is third to last in the AHL standing. So you gotta look at it somewhere. And I think this is a good time to, I'll let you propose the topic here, but I know you really wanted to discuss the yin and the yang about the rest of this season.
Right.
And so you got to point the fault somewhere, and I'm going to start off with, it's still the defense. The defense is still porous. Yeah. I think they're loads better than they were last season. But still, that's basing it on a blank potentially, because There was nothing to paint about the Barracuda defense last year. This year, I think
Right.
it's better, but still.
But it's still, I mean, it's
That's
still duct taped together.
yeah,
Like, and again, I don't want to pick on guys. Like, and this isn't, and this really isn't their fault. Like, obviously, Sitari Hataka is now a member of the New Jersey Devils organization, but like, once he went down early in the season and hasn't been back since, like, so you had to bring in like your Brady's and your Rydells and, and look at, I think those guys have come in and have done an admirable job given the
yeah,
situation. Like, I don't want to
yeah.
bag on these guys because these guys are trying to find their way to have a professional career. And I think they've done the most with the opportunity given the ability of the players, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
I think
obviously
especially in Brady's case, earned the contract that he's gotten. I don't think there's an NHL defenseman there, but at the start of the season when he first got on his tryout, I didn't think there was an AHL defenseman
Right.
there. So I mean, he, again, another player who's, stepping his way up. Jake Middleton was a tryout player at one time, and so.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to beat up on
I'll
the
let you continue.
Anthony Gonzalez is like, well, we have Nikita Otiak. Is that the
Ohochuk?
I don't know, Ohochuk. Our team Guryov Bash Brothers pairing next season with the Barracuda. We could. We most certainly could.
I don't think Artem Guryev gets a contract.
You don't think so, eh?
No, I think his foot speed is really, well, not even foot speed, just overall skating ability is not there. And I mean, sure, if you want another defenseman who takes too many penalties, you can bring Guryev in.
Yeah.
Heck of a shot.
I haven't seen a ton of his junior games, so I don't want to act like I'm a super expert on this player.
Yeah, same.
What limited I have seen of him, I haven't really been impressed. I honestly, I find like he's cheap, man. Like, he's nasty in all the wrong ways, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree with that. And, Gannon Larocque's going to be coming in next season, and maybe Evgeny Kav, another forgotten Russian defensive prospect that we have.
Right.
I just don't see the room, if anything, about Guryev, but not enough there for me.
I haven't watched enough of him to be like, this is my expert opinion on this prospect. None of my opinions are expert opinions, for the record. But yeah, like, anything I have seen of him, and anytime, like, it seems like people are talking about on Twitter, they talk about how he's just a coward who takes cheap shots all the time. Like, I don't know. Not someone I'm super looking forward to. Another player that could also show up this blue line, though, once Macamadulin is done in the KHL, he is apparently coming back to North America. So that's a potential guy that we could see slot in on the Barracuda as they run down the stretch run, which is kind of where I want to go, because the Barracuda have 20 games left in their season. And obviously, look at, like, we're talking about playoffs, obviously, but I think, it's very important that we talk about, like you said, this is not a good team. This team, if they make the playoffs, will make the playoffs because 7 teams out of the, 10 teams in the Pacific Division make the playoffs. So they'll play a best of 3 against the second seeded team. I mean, anything can happen in the playoffs. We know this. Especially in the AHL, because obviously, the AHL is the team that serves at the behest of the NHL. So if the NHL needs your top player, guess what?
The Kraken could have a rash of injuries, and then all of a sudden the Barracuda sweep the Firebirds in the playoffs. You never know.
Could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. Could happen. Kevin, in your opinion, and I want both the because we said the yin and the yang, right? So in your opinion, why do the Barracuda make the playoffs?
Well, I mean, statistically, right now, the Barracuda points out of a playoff spot, but they do have 2 games in hand against Tucson, and a game against the games that they've recently shown against Calgary, Coachella, and the first the overtime win against Ontario. Obviously, all ahead of them in the standings, and even Abbotsford too, because Calgary, Coachella Valley, Abbotsford, top 3 teams in the division. Like the Barracuda have shown that they can hang with this team when they're playing good system hockey and not making dumb mistakes like Konyatsev's turnover tonight. The Barracuda look like the team that started the season 4-0. But when they don't have their heads in the game or they take themselves out of the game, like repeatedly what we've seen this season in matchups against Tucson and Abbotsford particularly, the Barracuda just shoots themselves in the foot because they're penalty killing, despite what I said earlier about their defense. Their penalty killing is pretty strong. They just have a problem of always being on the penalty kill. If you see an uptick in scoring, especially if Tristan Robbins can kind of get over that rookie mid-season hump and provide more offense, maybe Mike Greer brings in another veteran forward. Boy, it kills me that Henderson got Jamel Smith, because Jamel Smith would be amazing on this team. And, that's Henderson's push to try and get back into the playoffs right there. But if they can get a little bit more scoring, because outside of Makaniemi's shootouts, I'm fine with the goaltending. I've got no problem with all 3 of the goaltenders that we have. Aaron Dell, again, was amazing tonight.
Yeah.
I think that the Barracuda can definitely recover those 5 points with a lot of home wins and a little bit better scoring, a little bit, tightening up the gaps.
Yeah. So the reason why I think the Barracuda make the playoffs is the team that they are chasing for the most part. They're chasing 2 teams, but they have to beat one of them, obviously. So when I look at the Bakersfield Condors, is the team that I look at. The Bakersfield Condors and the San Jose Barracuda play 4 more games before the season ends. That's an 8-point swing. If they can take care of business in those 4 games, they can kind of control their own destiny. So
that's a great call.
To me,
and actually,
that's
the key.
They
have only one game against a top 3 division team in the month of March, just FYI.
Correct.
To further your point.
Yeah, like their schedule, I don't think their schedule's fantastic. Like they're going to have to play, they're going to travel to Texas. I'm curious I haven't really seen much of the Texas Stars, so I'm not sure how they are.
Central division leaders.
Yeah. So, I mean, another game against Coachella, we've got a couple of games, I think you have a game against the Reign left, but there's also a couple of games against the San Diego Gulls and the Henderson Silver Knights. So, and the Colorado Eagles. So like I look at them and I think the Condors have gone on to a run, but if the Oilers are going to do anything, and this is the other part of this too, it's like, one, you have the 8-point swing potential there. And also, if the Edmonton Oilers are going to do anything, there's probably going to be subtractions from that Condors team, which can only help the Barracuda.
Actually, that's a great call. That kind of goes back to Race Fan Rox's question earlier about can the Barracuda slide into that 7th playoff spot. Like that right there might dictate the whole rest of the season. The rest of the trades, the players that the Sharks probably bring in for the Barracuda, and the players that probably get shipped out of Bakersfield. That's a great point.
Yeah, and like I said, 8-point swing. Like the Barracuda kind of control their own destiny. If they don't take care of business in those 4 games, though, then they're in trouble. Why, in your opinion, do the Barracuda miss the playoffs?
Games like the last 5 minutes tonight.
Yeah,
I thought the Barracuda really took it to Coachella Valley. But then in the 3rd period, I think they kind of fell into a lull. There weren't any glaring mistakes until the 3rd goal, but they kind of just sat. And when this team settles, they start kind of just fading out. And then and this team needs to be exciting. This team absolutely needs to be exciting. They can't win the dull, boring games because they just don't have the defensive prowess, in my opinion, to hold the fort. We saw it tonight. I've already said it like 4 times.
Yeah.
But like Aaron Dell, I think he had the opportunity to game, but then the defense let him down. And these type of performances, Strauss-Mann not being the biggest goalie, he needs to be able to challenge his angles. And when the defense is constantly backpedaling, Strauss-Mann has to get deep in net, and he falters. A2 Makiniemi has, I think, been pretty good throughout the season, but still struggles in overtime shootout.
Yeah, could not win a
shootout.
So
I overall, I think the goaltending's been fine. The goaltending can be good, if not great, if the defense is better. And if the defense is better, the breakouts are a lot cleaner for the Barracuda forwards. So, yeah, all in all, I think it starts from the back end, and I think that I think they're the breaking point with this team. Now, it's going to be really interesting for me to see how Ohotiuk and if Muhammadulin does get some games in, how they will change the dynamic here of the blue line. I wouldn't be surprised if another blue liner comes in, because you can only rely on Patrick Seeloff so much. Who's been fine, but yeah, that's my breaking. My yang is the defense. What about you, Ian?
So mine is that this team is their own worst enemy, and unfortunately, the players that John McCarthy needs to rely on to be a positive aspect on the game, your Jeff Viel's, CJ Cease, even Johnson to a lesser extent, are guys that will also hurt you the most, I feel like, in the game. And that's, I think, the thing like that kills me is, again, because like you said, it goes back to the defense, and the defense is under even more pressure when you're constantly down a man, because you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot with just stupid penalties. And I think it's John McCarthy. I don't think John McCarthy's done an amazing job this year. I think he's a rookie head coach. I don't want to be too ridiculously hyperbolic on him, but have I liked John McCarthy so far? Not particularly, because I think that guy, like, there's been times where he's like, yeah, we got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. If only I could do something about it. Well, you control the ice time.
It is hard. You got a rookie head coach and a rookie assistant coach in Cal Hagel. And so when you got a whole bunch of rookies in your lineup as well, that you know.
Yeah, and it is a young team, and I get that. But it's like sometimes, like when he's like, I don't know how we fix it. It's like, you're the coach. You control the ice time. If Jeff Viel wants to go and take a penalty after scoring a goal, you don't have to put him back on the ice. Maybe he gets the message. I don't think
you're using my own words for Peter.
Either.
What was that?
I don't think he's used his timeouts particularly well either.
Oh no. Yeah, that's been my big gripe, is using his timeouts to calm down the folks. It just hasn't happened. The folks, the team, the folks. Zach Amond is our guy, and the Barracuda roster are called the folks. That's going to be the new, instead of the battery next season, it's going to be the folks jersey. So anyway. Oh, geez. Shoot. And now I lost my train of thought there. It was going to be Nikolai Konechov. Another thing with the blue line. Mm-hmm. We don't know how much longer Nikolai Konechov's going to be on the Barracuda. I think he needs more. I think he needs more time, but I would not be surprised at all if he does get called up. And then that's one more solid defenseman that the Barracuda have lost.
Yeah, I think he's obviously, it's hard to get to, especially a guy who hasn't played real games in almost 2 years. I think it's hard to get to come into the season the way he did and get to like mid-season tempo. So I think he's struggled a little bit here and there, but I think he seems to be picking it up quickly, I hope. And I have high hopes that, he'll be able to do something, next season. It'll be interesting, though, because, again, like, his cachet, like, his thing was with Bob Bugner. He hasn't really been able to show Quinn too much yet. And then, so I always get nervous that, like, Quinn might just be like, well, I have my guys. Sorry, kid.
Well, for Nikolai Knizhov's credit, he did heal up at the right time because Santori Hatka and got shipped out.
That's true.
Yeah. I think that what is your take on that, on Santori Hatka? I mean, he's kind of like, I feel like with Mike Greer, he's an unknown quantity because, I mean, even last season, I felt like Hatka could not play more than 2 games in a row without getting hurt. And he's only played 8 games this season. So I feel like Mike Greer really never got to see him and was, do you too quick to ship him out?
Maybe. This is one of those things where maybe it comes back and bites you. It's so hard because the Devils have so many defensive prospects, right? So I think he's gonna have a tough, like, if they keep him around in New Jersey, he's got a tough path ahead of him because the Devils are flush with defensive prospects. Hatka, there's a lot of things about Hatka's game I like. I think when early on in the season, you could tell when he wasn't in the lineup, especially after Derek Pouliot went down. We've talked about this off air, where I think, he's a guy who makes a good first pass. He's a decent, transition skater. But I don't know if there's an NHL player there. Like, there might be, and again, how much have we seen? It seems like we didn't get to see enough of him. I like the player, but I'm not sure there's an NHL player there, to be completely honest.
Sure. Yeah. I agree with that assessment. So I just wanted to kind of throw it out there for anyone who does, obviously there are a lot of questions about the trade from last night. So kind of want to cover some of the lesser known aspects of it, like Hatka coming in the 11th hour and being traded to New Jersey. So
it's funny that Max Verno might have been the player to hold the whole thing up. It's Max Verno's fault. He's forever going to be dead to me for that.
Really? You think it was Max Verno? I was actually thinking it was Hatka.
No, that's the rumor. It was Max Verno
both hurt and out for the season.
That
Verno was. Okay.
That's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't know. Before we kind of start getting to the wrapping up here, I mean, I don't know. Is there any other aspect of that trade where, like, I feel like maybe didn't get enough coverage yesterday? Because I know the whole trade kind of came up after we went off the air, because that's of course how it went. I'm trying to think of any other aspects. I think, like, Ibrahimov, like, he's the guy who's been in the CHL. Zachary Amon, unfortunately, has a hip injury, but I don't think he was a particularly good goalie when he was healthy. And I know Jason Malls, the voice of the Wichita Thunder, was kind of like, hey, we only have 9 forwards now, like, be nice. And I know it's like, I didn't want to be callous about it, but, like, it is what it is, man. These guys were not getting qualifying offers this year.
Certainly not. Even when Zach Amon, our guy Zach Amon, was in, I mean, his save percentage was like 860 something. I saw him face 9 shootout attempts, all in person. He stopped 1. If we thought Makiniemi had struggles in shootouts, Amon officially made 3 saves out of 9. Although 2 of them were shots that missed the net, so he actually only stopped 1 of 9, if we're being serious. Zach Amon, I'll phrase it a certain way. I saw it. It's my pleasure seeing you depart. I mean, that sounds so mean.
It sounds so mean. I like these people are. I'm sure he's a nice dude. But
I'm sure he's a terrific guy.
I was never, like, this was a pick that we were never high on ever.
No, even back to our draft show. Go. Yeah. So we haven't mentioned, please subscribe if you haven't already, if you're enjoying the show. We've got gazillion hours of archive footage, including the draft that Zach Amon taken, where Ian and I both were not so thrilled about that pick.
No.
No. But I mean, this opens up Magnus Krona possibly coming in now. Ben Gaudreau, I think is going to be due a contract here. Or
Yeah,
sorry,
Ben
he's
Ben Gaudreau is the guy who like I'm curious what they do with him, right?
Gaudreau.
Because yes, Gaudreau. Um, I can't. I'm curious what they do because he's a guy who I wonder if Sarnia is in the thick of things. Like, is he a guy that plays his overage year? I don't know. Like again, like it's so hard because when you look at the way that the Barracuda are set up, right? Like right now, James Reimer's still on the team. I think James Reimer is still here after the trade deadline.
At this point, I agree. I
Um,
agree.
and I think Capo Kakinen is still here after the trade deadline. So I don't think there's going to be any movement here. And I think, and this logjam's only going to get worse. Because obviously, look at James
Yeah.
Reimer,
Yeah.
they probably don't bring him back in the season, or do they? Like, I'm not 100% sold they don't do that because I don't think Capo Kakinen has shown enough that unless if Mike Greer is just like, we're going to have the worst season ever. And then maybe you roll Capo Kakinen and Makiniemi together. And that's not and this is not a slight against Makiniemi. I like Makiniemi. It just seems like he's their guy so far but even you look at that too and you hear the rumors and it sounds like they're not really happy with the goaltending pipeline. So are they happy with Makiniemi? I don't know. Like, and it's just the goaltending is going to be fascinating for this team going forward.
Definitely. Yep.
So,
Well, you're going to have plenty of opportunities, folks, to come see the Barracuda in the next month. And I do kind of want to transition to the last topic I wanted to talk about. So there are 7 homes here in the month of March, including this weekend, Friday night against Ontario, Saturday against Coachella Valley, the team that the Barracuda played tonight. I will be there on Saturday night. It is Women of Hockey night, so that should be pretty cool. I think there's going to be some festivities going on before the game as well. So definitely go check it out. I mean, obviously everyone had a ton of fun at the alumni game this past Friday night, and y'all know TXU Arena is fantastic for arena. So let's fill in some seats, huh? And I do want to actually do a little bit of promotional work for the team, and there will be a point to this. So
throwing up the
season
graphic.
Pulling up the graphic. All right, season tickets are available now. Season ticket packages to become a Battery member. I am a Battery member, and tomorrow I will be renewing my membership. The reason I bring up specifically tomorrow is 3 of the ticket representatives. I thought there were only 3. Apparently there are 4 or 5, but 3 of them are departing tomorrow, including my rep, Jonathan, and one of the other reps who I speak with, Jared. They're both great. They have been the best Sharks/Barracuda ticket reps that I have had in years. So I'm actually very upset that they're both leaving. It was the last day. So I say, get your memberships updated now, because I don't know who's going to be there March 1st. But just for the ease of everything, take advantage now. The perks are great. You get the All-Star game that's coming to TXU Arena next year. They have eliminated the VIP package, which is frustrating for me because I am a VIP member. But when I was speaking with Jared last week, said that I'm actually going to be paying the exact same as I did this season for more games because of the particular VIP package. It all depends on the section you sit on and everything like that. But I fall into that very small window where I actually get more games for the same price, which is pretty cool. I come out. It's a fun. Get to come talk to me. I like to think I'm jovial, and I'll talk to you during intermission. I'll talk your ear off during intermission. So, just look into it, folks. We want to fill this building up, especially leading into the All-Star game next year. I do want to give a shout out to Jonathan and Jared. I don't remember the third person who's departing. I've not spoken with them though. But shout out to them because they did a phenomenal job.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna put that down. Anthony Gonzalez in the chat. Since San Jose has multiple undersized forwards coming up next season, does Greer look to move Barabanov this week? I think if there's a suitor, I think if someone blows Greer's socks off for anyone at this point, I think they're as good as gone. Yeah, I think if someone comes and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you this, and you're going to give me Barabanov," I think it's going to happen.
I like the spin you put on that, Anthony. I didn't thought of it light. I'm going to go with no because I don't think Eklund, Gushchin, etc. should be up with the NHL team yet. So I think Barabanov still absolutely has a role here. Now, if you are worried about Barabanov not being able to perform as well because Timo Meier is gone, maybe the Sharks should trade Alex Barabanov right now. I know there's been a lot of talk about can Erik Karlsson put up that 100-point season when you've got the main forward cog gone. I think you can apply the same thing to some of the other forwards, especially Barabanov. So I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility. I think they hang on to him.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not. I think if someone gives you an offer you can't refuse, you obviously take it. Being as the team is where it is, I think come next season, like look at the kids weren't gonna give it a chance. I don't think that's going to be the case next season. I think next year, at least like your top tier, your Eklunds and your Bordelos, I think they're going to get a chance to make this team out of camp next year. Do they? I don't know, but I think they'll get a reasonable chance. Whereas I don't think that was ever in the cards this year. But who knows? I'm not sure. Mike Greer perplexes me a lot of the times, which is weird because, like when you listen to Mike Greer talk, and I don't want to get too down the weeds here on the Sharks because, that's not what we're here for. But it's funny because when like Mike Greer talks, I agree with a lot of what he says. I just don't like the execution of what he said. Like what he says all the right things. I feel like when you listen to him in interviews, he says a lot of the right things. But the execution has been so piss poor. Your thoughts, Kevin?
And I'm still, I think, still out on Mike Greer. Every move he's made, I've been fine with. And as we've spoken about over the last week a lot, you can't just be fine with a move like trading Timo Meier. And I really think that's the source of everyone's dismay over this trade is the Sharks got none of the big prospects, not one big prospect or a high draft pick for Timo Meier. But I don't think it makes the return bad. You don't have to like it. I don't know if I like this trade, but I don't think it's the worst. And especially if Timo Meier was not planning to re-sign with the Sharks, better do it now than in the offseason when half his value is, half the return is coming in. Then we're really pissed off about Timo Meier. All you got was a second and a Hochuk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think with Mike Greer, right? Like, I do agree. I mean, that's basically the thing, right? Like, it's like this was a situation where I didn't want to be whelmed. I wanted to be like, okay, thank you. But at the end, of the day, look at when we traded for Erik Karlsson. If you go back and watch that show to see how pumped I was that we had Erik Karlsson. And
oh my God!
How look at look at everyone knows Josh Norris is great now, but when Josh Norris went to Ottawa, like everyone, not just slapdicks like us, a lot of people were like, this guy's maybe a third line center in the NHL. So as bad as this looks now, like again, we thought this Erik Karlsson trade was a fucking slam dunk when it happened. Look where we are now. So I'm not saying that this trade is going to end up being that, and like we're going to go back and make fun of New Jersey fans, 3 years down the road. I'm not saying that's the case. It chances are it won't be the case, but weirder shit has happened. then that's not me trying to justify not getting good return. That's just me trying to put a little sunshine on it. Because man, like we've been burned before by things that we thought were slam dunks and did not turn out to be slam dunks.
The way I like to look at it, and this be putting a positive spin on it, it's my true feeling is this trade is not about now. This trade is about down the road. So why should I be angry and gonna lynch Mike Greer with the pitchforks and all this stuff, or whatever I'm trying to say, lynch mob and the pitchforks?
Yeah.
Why am I going to do that right now when I don't know how this trade's going to work out? And to me, if trade, even if it doesn't mean the Sharks end up with the best odds to win the draft lottery when it's all said and done, all that matters is that their number gets called in the draft lottery. So the two ways that this trade is successful is, one, you win the draft lottery because this puts you in whatever the winning number is.
Yep.
Or two, all the prospects pan out. Most likely, I mean, the odds are prospects are going to pan out, but we don't know anything. So,
yeah.
I mean, AJ last night said, I can't wait in 5 years to come back at Kevin Lacey and be like, you said this guy would be good. I don't remember his exact words. But it was like, you said this guy would be good, and now I'm going to shove it in your face.
Yeah.
Well, you can't do it now, is my feeling. So I'm not going to get angry yet. I might get angry in 5 years, but
yeah,
I like Muhammadulin. I think he's a taller Mario Ferraro, and last time I checked, most Sharks fans love Mario Ferraro. So you're like, I don't love Mario Ferraro.
I used to, man, but there's I don't know if there's ever been a player who I mean, look at there hasn't been a player on this team that doesn't wear goalie pads that I think I've turned on this quickly.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't know. Look, yeah, look, I don't know.
Now, here are my teal tinted glasses.
Okay. Yeah.
With this is, I would like to think Mario Ferraro has had a bad season because of all the injuries. I'm curious to see how he'll perform next season with an actual off season of training and not rehab, because that is a major thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I would love for Mario Ferraro to turn around. I'm scared.
Sure. That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much good, right? EK65 probably wants to look at Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson is a guy who I think Erik Karlsson amuses me because I think he can say something and it's amazing how it immediately gets, like, you can already predetermine how certain people are going to take the context of it and spin it to whatever, you know what I mean? I don't think Erik Karlsson said anything different today than he said all season. Like, he's always said that he wants to win. It's obvious he wants to win. Obviously, watching the team, look at, it was one thing to when you keep Hurdle and you hope that maybe next year you can turn it around. Now, obviously, no one with the brain thought that was going to happen. But when you see the team, re-signing a guy like Tomas Hurdle, like, obviously it shows like they're trying to figure it out. Trading a guy like Timo Meier obviously sends a completely different message. I don't blame him for being disappointed by that, right? Look, now, I like Erik Karlsson, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Erik Karlsson's contract isn't a big part of the reason we're in this mess to begin with. So you win some, you lose some with Erik Karlsson. I don't know. Anything you want to add to that, Kevin?
No. I think we're straying too far down.
Yeah, we've gone
the
way
Sharks
down the rabbit
hole.
Yeah.
So
all right,
but I hope everyone enjoyed the show tonight.
Me too.
If you want to, be a part of our future shows, as Ian likes to say, and Puck Guy and so on, subscribe to the channel.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
we have a lot
we
of
are so close to
content
3,000 subscribers.
after dark.
We're so close to
There you go.
3,000 subscribers.
And like, we had an impromptu show tonight. We did not know that we were going to go an hour and 20 minutes tonight.
That's true.
So,
And we
thanks
decided
for,
it, 20 minutes before the game ended? We're like, yeah, let's just do a show.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to be caught off guard, and if you're catching this on replay, do the little alert bell thingy. I don't even know where it is on the thing. I'm just gonna point here and hope I'm correct.
I think it's under me, but that's fine.
Okay. Well, anyway, you're gonna want to click that bell so that you know the next time we decide, you know what? The Barracuda beat the Texas Stars 5-1, and William Eklund had a hat trick, and we're gonna talk about it. Something like that. Get notified, and hopefully we'll bring Nick on next time too, because we always have a good time chatting with Nick.
Definitely. So. Yeah, I mean, look at the schedules being what they are. It's kind of all the stars aligned to kind of do this. I'd like to do this a little bit more often because I feel like, we do our best. I think we try our best to cover the Barracuda the best we can on top of everything else that we kind of do. It's hard. Look at to do this. To be able to do this on a regular basis, plus After Dark, where I do poll, and this isn't a shot at anybody. These are just facts. I do like half of the shows, so to do
and sometimes you GIF Sharks and Barracuda games simultaneously in the same night too on the Tealtown USA Twitter. So
right.
I give you credit there.
Yeah, like there's a lot of things that are obviously done behind the scenes, and you want to the phrase "happy wife, happy life" is a very true thing, and that's the golden rule for anybody. So obviously you want to make sure that you're not just spending all your time here, because as much as I enjoy doing this, and I know sometimes I'm on social media and I whine and bitch like I have the worst job ever, and even this isn't even a job, it's a hobby. But I enjoy it, and if I ever come off as like cranky about it, I'm not. I really love doing this. The fact that I do this and people show up and watch me talk about the Barracuda, which is not even like the Sharks are kind of a niche team, but like the Barracuda are the niche of the niche. So the fact that we can do this and have a chat that gives us questions and everything else, I mean, it's always amazing to me. So yeah. I think that is that's where we're gonna end this here. So again, I appreciate, on behalf of myself, Kevin Lacey, I appreciate you guys coming out and joining us. And like I said, we'll try to do some of this. I think if the Barracuda make the playoffs, we will do this. That is my goal. But
absolutely, and
let's get them in the playoffs. That's the key.
Yeah, and kind of just wrapping it up in a bow. Barracuda fall in overtime 4-3. Great overtime, end to end. The only thing with the overtime was the only shot of overtime was Cole Lynn's wrister on the 2-on-1 to win it. But I felt like it was just back and forth, chance. Everyone kept missing the net or turning it over, but it was exciting. So, but yeah, unfortunately, fall to Coachella Valley. The rematch will be Saturday, but first on Friday at home against the Ontario Reign. So
there you have it. All right, guys. Again, if you ever want to join the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the likes, all that. Leave us a comment in the YouTube chat if you are catching this after the fact. I always try and hit the YouTube chats. I've been a little slacky on it lately, but I on this show for sure. If you have any question you want to ask in the YouTube chat, I will do my best to get down there and give you an answer. And of course, if you want to find everything, you can find it all at tealtownusa.com. With that, thank you from myself, from Kevin Lacey. I wish you all a fantastic evening.